Hello, and welcome to Beering in Mind Beer Reviews. And today we're going to begin a series of lambic beers from the Brouwerij, which is called Lindemans in Belgium. We're going to look at 5 different fruited lambics, and then finally we will look at their Faro, which is a sugared lambic. And I'm going to look at them in order of alcohol strength, just for no reason except that we're moving up the scale. These are all very, very low alcohol. The first one will start out at 2.5% alcohol, in fact. Lindemans is located a few kilometers outside of Brussels, and they are well known for their lambics and their artisanal gins, which they make as well. They've been going since 1822, and they're now in their 6th generation of family brewers, and so quite a history. They're most famous for these fruited lambics, but they also make a few other styles that are considered much more highly, I think. In any case, lambic is a beer which undergoes what's called spontaneous fermentation. In other words, it's not inoculated with yeast, as most beer is, to produce alcohol and flavors and aromas. What happens is the beer is brewed, often combinations of barley and wheat, and after the wort is boiled and cooled, they take it up to a higher area, up higher in the house or the brewing area, and spread it out into some shallow cooling trays. The Dutch word is koelschip, and in English it somehow just become a folk translation, cool ship. These are large, very wide cooling trays, and the wort is set up there to cool overnight, and the windows, dormers are opened, and the wild yeast floats in and inoculates the wort. And the area around Brussels has a concentration of very strong wild yeast. The most commonly known one is called Brett, or Brettanomyces, and it's a wild yeast, and so it comes in on the wind with maybe some other microflora. And then after one night, it's put into fermenters, into very large wooden barrels called foeders. And it's fermented for about 6 months there. Some places use foeders, and for example, Rodenbach is very famous for having a lot of foeders. And others use stainless steel and throw in wood chips to provide the wood atmosphere, the wood effect on the beer. And after about 6 months or so, it is matured for an additional 6 months, and then some lambics are bottled, and others are blended to make what's called gueuze. And gueuze is a blend of young and old lambics. So they may take a 1-year-old lambic and blend it with a 3-year-old lambic, and try to create some interesting flavors. This is the real magic, I think, of making an interesting beer. Very similar to what winemakers do. The wood is also similar to what winemakers do as well. But blending, it's kind of a point where the science leaves off and the art takes over, or maybe we could say craft takes over, deciding when and how much of each part of the age of the lambic should be put into another age, and that sort of thing. And so Lindemans produces a variety, again, of fruit lambics, and they also produce some other beers you may be more interested in. The fruit lambics are not terribly exceptional in quality. They're interesting, but not the best. If you can find their gueuze Cuvée Vernet, or one they make with Mikkeller, which is called Spontaan Basil, or their Oud Lambic. Any of those 3 will give you a very different experience, I think. Okay, So this is just a brief introduction to Lindemans, and now we're going to move on to the first of the fruited lambics. Okay, and now we're going to look at the very last of the Lindemans beers, the 6 Lindemans beers. And this one is not a fruited lambic. It is a sweetened lambic. It's called Lindemans Faro. And Faro is a lambic that has been sweetened with added sugar. And this style, the style of beer apparently was quite popular in the 17th century. Lindemans' website talks about how the painter Bruegel would not be able to paint without it, and farm workers would restore their strength with this beer. It kind of fell out of favor for a long time, and then it was brought back, and Lindemans claims to be the brewery that brought back this style. I am not sure how true that is. This is a 4.5% beer by alcohol, and it has been around since at Lindemans since 1978. And on RateBeer it has 2,303 ratings, an average of 3.39 out of 5, 68 percentile for all beers, and 64 for its style, which is lambic Faro style. Okay, so like all lambics, this has a spontaneous fermentation process, and then after it is drawn out into the casks and aged or bottled, it is sweetened with sugar. And a lot of Belgian beers do include sugar, what's called candy sugar, rock sugar, things like that. Let's give this a go here. A little bit rough on the pour there. Okay, so it's got an interesting color, kind of medium brown, clear brown color with an off-white sort of head. See the carbonation, gentle carbonation rising. It does look a bit rustic. Aroma. Some vinegar. Definitely wood. Some funk. Something like berries, maybe sweet. Kind of like cream or something rising. The yeast is quite funky. Maybe something like sherry, very light, but with a swirl we get the funky yeast really does come up quite a bit. Okay, right away I get some concentrated citrus, not really orangish, but maybe something more lemony. Vinegar for sure. Some caramel element, and the funky yeast. It has kind of almost a wine-like character. Sort of a thin body, dryish in the finish. Interesting. It does, the other Lindemans beers are fruited lambics, and they have some sweetness from the fruit. This one has sweetness from added sugar. It's interesting. Again, a kind of entry-level sort of lambic, something that would be easier to drink than a straight full-ahead lambic. You can find interesting Belgian lambics in your store probably, and many of them will be shockers on first sip. These are much easier to drink, especially for first-time lambic drinkers. So if you've never had lambics before, try Lindemans. Or if you have a friend you want to introduce to lambics gently, give them a Lindemans beer. Once again, this is Lindemans Faro, 4.5%, and give it a try. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel, and let's talk more about beer next time. I'll see you. Bye-bye.